Monday, 5th September 2020. Whoops, 2. In this evening's show, we give our thoughts on Sunday's hard-fought victory at Huddersfield as a severely depleted pool returned from West Yorkshire with all 3 points. And it definitely went over the line. I'm John Aspinall, this is Seaside's podcast match reaction show. Huddersfield Town 0, Blackpool 1.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition. Change the world.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome on the audio pod. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show. Panelists, if you haven't unmuted yourselves already, frantically do it now. There you go. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Welcome in the chat. Leanne's here, Kelly's here, Antonio's here, Alex is here, Ray's here, David's here, Gemma's here, and Tim's here. Back from his sophisticated...
Back from my sojourn.
Oh.
That's got to be a record.
That was. If Bristol City had scored that chance after 23 seconds, I could have used an analogy for the Timism. But yeah, Sojourn, I think you've used that actually before.
I have.
Tim, so
To be fair, it's one of my favourites. To be honest.
You've hit
Do I get half a horn?
No, I think you've hit the post there, just like Bristol City. So tell us about your holiday. I was telling Leanne last week, actually, she was asking where you'd gone. And I said you were looking at a load of old ruins and wrecks in Cyprus or something. She said it sounds really boring. Was it?
Well, there was copious amounts of alcohol involved as well. You'd have enjoyed it. I was about biking in the mountains every morning.
Well, I've liked that, yeah. Getting wrecked in some wrecks.
I had a bike from for the duration and got out of it, really pissed the missus off, getting up at 6:30 in the morning, banging around the bedroom, and as you do. But she ended up going, one night sleep I want.
The missus gets really pissed off at getting a load of banging around in the bedroom at 6:30 in the morning.
I know.
The ladies like that sort of thing normally, don't they? A man of your age, she should be pleased.
It was all right. It was a good holiday. So
is that what she said? All right.
Well, yeah, she might have different views on it. But
to clarify, we are talking about the holiday here, aren't we, Tim?
We are. So no, it was nice. 8 days in Paphos. It was all right. Plenty hot and bit of culture.
Whereas the likes of us go to these bleak and dank places of Northumberland and North Yorkshire moors, that kind of thing.
Well, I literally went on holiday to Middlesbrough once, so
Was it to see the transporter bridge, like an old his own pet?
Well, I did go and see the transporter bridge, but that wasn't the purpose. But yeah, I actually had a surprisingly good time in Middlesbrough, to be fair.
Teesdale's really nice, actually. If you get into the Tees Valley, it's really nice.
I really did go to Middlesbrough on holiday, and I really did look at the pigeon loft in Middlesbrough on holiday. That's not actually me making up things to fit the stereotype. It was lovely.
I once went to a club called Tall Trees. I think that was near Middlesbrough. That's as far as I can go into that area for pleasure. Joe, obviously coming from the cultural capital of the UK, as you do, a trip to Middlesbrough would be a slight downgrade on the delights of Rotherham. And has it got a cinema yet?
It's currently being built as we speak. It's very exciting times, especially with Cineworld possibly going bust, which is my current cinema of choice in Sheffield. It could be the perfect timing for this cinema in Rotherham. Tell you what, I'm so excited.
It's part of the levelling up, isn't it? This, I believe, is.
Don't know about levelling it up. Rotherham just needs levelling. To be honest, shouldn't have said that with the game coming up next Wednesday, should I?
Tim, we went last time with Joe, didn't we, to Rotherham away? Maybe we should do it again. Joe,
We
so-
probably went. I
so-
think we visited the worst pub I think I've ever been in on any away trip I've
What are you
ever
on
been
about?
on.
The bridge is quality.
Oh my God.
It's about the
It
only
was-
away pub you can go in Rotherham now. Now
Do you remember the food? Do you remember the food, John? It was like
Was it very basic? 'Cause that's my only sort of.
the pub was
That's just Rotherham in
absolutely
general.
fucked. It was like as bad as you could possibly be. The beer was crap. They had like this horrible food on, and this was apparently the best
That's
pub in Rotherham.
avant-garde in Rotherham.
My abiding memory was the toilets, and it was just like what Renton went into on Train Spotting. Like the worst toilets in
It would get
Glasgow.
sucked
was
down
just
into the floor.
like that. It was just like that. So yeah, I think we should go, Tim. I think we should relive those the heady days, halcyon days of visiting the hostelries of the finest South Yorkshire town with our good friend Mr. Athelton. So we up for it, Athers?
Well, yeah, I might as well go. It's like literally 10 minutes down the road from my house.
So when is it next Tuesday night?
I think it's a Wednesday. I'm not too sure.
We are turning into the Wednesday team, aren't we?
Mm. Right,
Not too sure.
everybody. I think you're here to watch us talk about a Blackpool match. So I suppose we'd best get on with that, haven't we? As Tim goes. And he's just said, has Tim got his sweaty football gear on? I think he has, and he's gone to spray himself with some Just for Men. Not some Just for Men, that's hair dye. Sure.
I've not had a chance to get changed. I didn't get into about 8:10. So I was chatting to people after the game, and so it was a case of needs must. So yeah, so I am in the sweat.
Anyway, we don't want to talk about Tim's perspiration, do we? We want to talk about the starting 11 at Blackpool versus Huddersfield, and this was a real head scratcher when this was announced. So this was the starting 11: Grimshaw, Gabriel, Ekpiteta, Williams, Thornley, hooray! Thompson, Dougal, Connolly, Pervader, I'm not sure it's pronounced, Yates, and the Mountie, Corbinu. Mitch, first off, great to see Jordan Thornley back in, but equally mystifying to see Williams and Ekpiteta in there as well. Penny, for your thoughts on Apple's thoughts there?
Well, I was just baffled because I hadn't even considered the fact he could play 3 at the back or 5 at the back or whatever you call it. I was surprised as well that he hadn't put Wright in, because I'd read somewhere that he'd said that Pervader was way off being fit, so I was surprised to see Pervader in. And it was one of them where you look at it and think, well, I've got nothing to match this to. We haven't played like this for 8. I mean, 5-3-2 or 3-4-3 or what is it? Trying to work it out, and even going back to Critchley, I couldn't really remember us really lining up like this very often. So yeah, it was your penny would have bought some bafflement from me, I think, had you asked me before the game.
Joe, our accredited friend, who isn't on this evening, was very consistent in saying he will never deviate from 4-3-3, i.e. Appleton's formation and tactical picks. Obviously, talking a lot of bollocks there, wasn't he?
Yeah, as per usual.
Cheers, Sean.
I think a lot of that selection's probably down to 2 things. I'm not digging the fella out just because he supports or allegedly supports. I think Reece Williams has looked a little bit shaky the past couple of games. So giving him a bit of support with an extra man there, possibly, and Appleton's thinking. And he's kind of hamstrung at the minute by pure lack of numbers in midfield and up front, because you got to remember Beasley is out injured, and you've got Medine with that retrospective suspension. So there's a bit of fragility up front. There's a bit of fragility in midfield. It's a case of this is my squad. I mean, the fact that Jack Moore's on the bench out of nowhere, one of the youth players, just shows we're down to the bare bones at the minute. So I think his mind was more or less made up with the players that were available.
Tim, on our Patreon group, when I saw that, I mused that we may be going for a defensive performance and try and catch them on the break. What were your thoughts when you saw that lineup? Did you concur with that? Or
yeah, I was disappointed. I actually thought it'd be brave and put Wright in from the start. But I think the risk always is, isn't it, when you play three at the back with your two fullbacks? If those two fullbacks are used to playing in the back four, then they're naturally going to migrate to their normal positions. So whilst I think both had a great game, I did think particularly, I know we're going to go on to discuss the game, but probably in the second quarter that we seemed to sit back very, very deep and you know, we invited pressure on. And I think the problem with that system is it does invite, because at the end of the day, you've got Dougal and Conley are both defensive players. So if you actually look at the structure of the team, you've got 7 defensive players and 3 attacking players, which compared with the way we've been playing in recent weeks is you know, it's the complete opposite, isn't it? Because we've had games where we've almost been playing 4 or even 5 up front and really going for it. And this was like, you know, the yin to the yang.
That's right. So, Mitch, you came from up in Lancaster, didn't you? There was a bit of trouble getting there, I believe, on the roads.
Yeah, well, there was the M55 junction was shut, but also the motorway, just to add on top of that, the motorway was also shut between, well, I'm not sure exactly where it was, Lancaster and Garstang or Lancaster and Preston. So I had the delight of going via the deepest, darkest hills of Bowland, Clitheroe, some towns that I've only ever heard of on Radio Lancashire when they round up the cricket scores with John Gwynn and Gary Higson. And just, I literally, after about an hour and a half, I had no idea where I was. And then I popped out sort of somewhere east of Manchester and joined the M62. It took me about 2 hours, 50 minutes to get there. And I mean, Huddersfield from where I live, I've done it in about an hour and 15 minutes before. So it was a journey.
Tim, you went with Ashley's coach from...
I was head steward.
Oh, yeah.
And we had Blakey's peak cap on, you know.
On coach
Bartler.
2? Was the 2
no,
coaches?
There was only one coach.
Okay.
It was a bit the numbers were down actually quite a bit on Sunday. We were on about 30 odd on. I think probably, but we had a similar tale of woe to Mitch's in that we left at 12, had to go via the number 10, but we actually got to the ground at 10-3.
Jesus.
Going through press. Well, because the M50, we nearly went on the M55, and some who didn't make kickoff because it looked fine as you're going onto it, but it was just chocker. I believe it ended up being back all the way to Tesco, all the way from to Preston at one stage. So we go via Preston, but there's obviously roadworks where they're creating that new south bypass, so it's down to a single lane. It took us an hour and a half the long and the short of it took us an hour and a half to get to Walton Summit. So it's a bit depressing, but worth it in the end.
Yeah. Obviously, I couldn't make the game. Joe, I was gonna.
He could have made the game, but he decided to sit at home and watch it on TV.
Well, there were babysitting issues in there as well, Tim.
All right, you didn't tell me that. You left out that bit of crucial information. You just went, nah.
I was going to go as
watch it on telly.
Joe's mate, but was it Barry in the chat there? So thanks to Ethers for letting my son's mate get in for 10 quid. We were talking about in the green room, Joe, weren't we? So
yeah, well, with it being paying the gate, I just thought anyone want to get in half price and first taker.
Yeah, there you go, Barry. Right, onto the game then. Mitch, talk us through the opening 20 minutes in the kind of the build up to Jerry dispossessing their dodgy keeper. Kind kind of ebbed and flowed with not a lot happening really from
Yeah,
memory.
you've not given me the easiest job to do there, John.
Well, I'll just say fuck all happened in the first 20 minutes then. How about that?
Yeah, nothing happened. Huddersfield looked crap. We didn't look very adventurous. I think they might have had a shot from distance or something, but nothing really happened at all. We didn't look like we had much threat. They didn't look like they were much good.
How many corners did they have, though?
Yeah, they did, didn't they? I mean, the corners added up and added up and added up. And it was sort of the one thing that they seemed to be any good at was taking corners. They had the lad, Sorba Thomas, is it, on corners?
Yeah.
And he takes a good corner. We should borrow him for corner taking. But apart from that, not much happened. And the main thing I can remember was one of their lads sort of lining up what looked like to be an absolutely inch-perfect slide rule pass. He did sort of like that thing where, when you pass it and your foot stays through the ball as if you've done a really class pass, but it was about 20 yards in front of him and just rolled out of play. And their fans were not happy after about 15 minutes of grumbling at them. So, yeah.
Chizzy and Brett were our crack co-commentary team on the stream, and they were pointing it out quite a lot that the Huddersfield fans were right on their own team's back literally every time they passed the ball back. Joe, was there a sort of a pretty negative atmosphere from the home fans?
I don't want to be one of those, but I didn't really hear a peep out of their fans the whole game. They were very quiet, apart from when they scored. But obviously, we'll get onto that later. I kind of feel for them because, they're in a similar situation to us, but worse. They were 90 minutes away from getting to the Premier League. Very contentious final against Forest, with penalties given, not given, and Nottingham Forest ended up getting promoted, taking two of their best players. We know how that feels. At least they're bloody playing them. Anyway, I digress. Losing their manager pre-season, who did a fantastic job getting them up there. They're suffering extreme hangover from everything that's gone on over the summer since the playoff final. And yeah, it must be proper crap going from being 90 minutes away from the Premier League to essentially being bottom of the division, because Coventry have played so few games because of their pitch.
Tim, we had Huddersfield, a lot of us in our pre-season predictions last season had Huddersfield to go down, and they surprised a lot of us last season in how well they did, but we kind of dominated them up until Jordan Gabriel doing his thing last season, and we weren't really outclassed in this game at all. Take your pick who was the high place team from last season. But as I said, the goalkeeper looked very shaky and the defence playing out. We pressed them hard, and Jerry Yates really very nearly took advantage of that on 19 minutes. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I'm trying to remember the incident you referred to at the moment, but it was, I felt that they always looked shaky at the back all the way through the game. I mean, if you analyze the number of times that their back four, back five, or even the midfield played the ball out onto the touchline, completely missed one of their players. Their distribution was awful, and I think the high press, to coin our blue tick members' phrase, was always going to reap some dividends. And I've got to say, I'm actually struggling to remember the specific incident you're referring to, but Jerry's the master at cutting things out, isn't he? So maybe Mitch, do you remember what was it about?
It was kind of a combination of Gabriel and Yates. Gabriel had bombed right forward, and
I was shouting so much. Just 2 secs. Yeah. I was shouting at Eddie on the TV. What are you doing, Gabriel? Don't commit yourself. Don't foul. Don't go for that. And Eddie said, "Dad, you don't know what you're on about." Gabriel almost made that goal, didn't he, by that surge?
Well, are we talking about the Yates chance, or are we talking about the goal? Because he was
Oh, that was
involved
the
in
goal,
both.
wasn't it? Yeah,
That was the
yeah.
goal, yeah. But he was right up for the Yates chance as well,
Yeah.
and Yates ends up nabbing it. Gabriel comes inside, and actually, he got a bit of stick for this, but the ground I couldn't make head and tail of. It was just one of them that went across the box, because that away end always, or that end always seems particularly far away. I don't know why. Some grounds you just really struggle to see, but he puts it across the box, and I almost feel like if there'd been a striker in the middle, they might have got it. That Gabriel kind of. He plays it in front of Gabriel, but Gabriel doesn't really quite anticipate what he's going to do, because after all, he is a right back, and it just gets away from him. But that was the first thing really where we'd had an effort. I mean, the only other thing we'd had was Theo had to go for on about 10 minutes, where he just sort of wandered across the pitch and had a shot, and it nearly went in, which he was about all I can remember us doing, apart from scoring in the half.
Jerry Yates had, I think he had other options, didn't he? He could have played Poveda in, who was just completely unmarked on the chance we were talking about. And
I think
Jerry looked very ponderous, didn't he? He was taking far too many touches and he wasn't being very decisive. So if
he slid it along the floor, he'd probably got on the end of it. The fact that he's kind of not only like chipped across it, but it with quite a bit of pace. I think if there weren't as much pace on it, or it were along the ground, it's probably a tap in. But I'm not going to have a go at Yates, because I saw some criticism of him online, and I'm like, you can criticise his decision making at times, fair enough, and maybe even his lack of goal sometimes. But the fella had said that he's lazy. If there's one thing that Jerry Yates isn't, it's lazy. Full time, he collapsed. He was like on a heap. He must have ran half a marathon that game.
And it was warm out there. It was warm out there, wasn't it? Really sticky.
And he's doing it for the third time in 8 days as well, because he never seems to come off, does he?
No.
Yeah,
just going back in the chat, and I don't really saw it, John, but there's a story about Corbinu. Apparently, he missed the team coach and had to jump in a taxi to get to the ground. And that's apparently legit. That's actually what happened. So, I mean, some managers might have dropped somebody who missed the team bus, might they? But maybe there was an explanation for it linked to all those problems of getting in and out of Preston. But apparently that's what he did.
But that was an expensive taxi.
Yeah. It's probably better than getting the fine he'd have got if he hadn't got it.
But it was on a meter on a bomber.
Yeah, but every credit for going the extra mile, because I think he most certainly deserved that starting place. So, but yeah, I heard that straight after the game. So I believe it's a true story.
Mitch, Jack Rodoni, I think his name was, Huddersfield player, who's a thorn in our side afternoon. He was a great player. I
thought he was good.
Yeah, he almost scored from a header right in front of the Blackpool fans on 30 minutes. A couple of minutes previous to that, he got poleaxed by Grimmy's elbow. Anything sinister in that, or just pure accident?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That was a ball into the box. And Grimmy punches everything, doesn't he? He rarely catches. He punches first choice, and he took the ball first and just went through on Rodoni. And straight away, Grimmy stopped the play. He sort of went out to the ref, stopped the play. I don't think there's anything sinister in that at all. I think if anything, it was probably empathy from Grimmy, given what he went through from he will not mention now at that game that we'd all like to forget about. So no, nothing suspicious in that. But I thought Rodoni was really good. He had a nice touch. He had a decent shot on him. He was actually quite good in the air as well. He linked up. He looked a canny player. I think. Am I right in saying they got him from Wimbledon? Have I made that up?
Yeah, I think we were in for him at some point, or at least linked to him.
I was looking quite enviously at him.
Yeah,
saying that we were linked to about 20 players over the summer. So
he had the shot from distance that Grimmy made a really good stop, way to his left.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was like Grimmy v Rodoni that first half. But yeah, not long or a minute later, Tim, after Grimmy's pushed away that brilliant Radoni shot, we've gone 1-0 up through that man Theo. Top scorer now,
Taxi boy.
3 goals. Yeah,
We were actually we were just in the green room beforehand. We were trying to work out what his goals per minutes on the pitch ratio is, and it's I think we've narrowed it down. Mitch did to 1 in every 100 minutes is on the pitch, which isn't so bad so far, is it really? Yeah. So Gabriel, sort of, if I remember rightly, did he win the ball on the right hand side? He most certainly got free of his man and
he proper sprinted for it. He was. It was from that.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, that's when I was saying, don't go for it. You'll foul and get booked. But he was rapid, wasn't he, Joe?
Yeah, it was actually from their corner, and the ball's like it's a second ball that's been headed out into the area, and he's literally just beaten the Huddersfield player to it, and he's pinged it down the other end with the ball, and he's slid in a really nice early pass to Poveda. And I'll be honest, I thought Poveda had scored. I was already cheering, and I was like, "All right," went scored, and bit of luck, hit the post, came straight to Corbinu. He just tapped it in. Nice little
well, he didn't just tap it in though. Did he?
It was a nice little bit of control, and
he had
half volleyed it in the top left.
He made it look very, very simple.
Well, it was beautiful. Right foot, then left foot. It was he used both feet in it. So he's kind of disproving my theory that he's CJ plus, because that wouldn't have worked. CJ using both feet in a move would never happen. Sorry, CJ.
It's not like us to get it completely wrong about players, is it? I mean, dig them out.
Actually, I'm going to pull you all up here. I think a few weeks ago, when everyone was slagging our Canadian hero, I was like, give him time. He's just come into the club. We all remember how poor Keogh was his first few games. I said to you all, he'll end up being a cult hero like Richard Keogh. And you all laughed at me. Who's laughing now?
Was that before or after you predicted 5 defeats from the last 5 games, Joe, or whatever it was?
We've got another Nigel Farage moment there, Tim, haven't we? I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
Exactly. I've got to say, I thought it was he finished it really well, and he's the first time he scores. You think was the first one Burnley, wasn't it?
Burnley,
and you think, well, it's a good finish, but it's a one-off. And then he does it again at Blackburn, and then does it again at Huddersfield, and you start to think, he actually knows where the goal is, and he knows how to put a ball away, and
he's got a lovely knack of being in the right place at the right time as well.
It's just so calm.
But they're not easy. They're not easy goals he's scored. I know.
They're easy to miss, Tim, aren't they?
Exactly.
Very easy to miss.
Exactly. Very easy. And we've seen plenty of players. So I'm going to name him Theo Goals because he actually scores.
Tim's making the common mistake of thinking a goal machine has to score goals. It just goals happen around a goal machine. Theo is on course over 46 games. If he carries on scoring at the rate he's scoring, he's on course to score. I can't speak. 42.4 goals this season. I've just worked it out. Sorry, 41.4 goals.
What is this algorithm you're using?
Well, that's on the basis on the pitch for every minute.
So he scored every 100 minutes. So
but he hasn't been on the pitch every minute in the first 8 games, has he?
No. He over the course of a 46 game season, if he scored at the rate he would score, and he would score 41.4 goals.
I think the more important metric is
I'd sell for 30
after 8 games. Corbinu 3, the entire Preston North End squad 2.
And everybody needs to sign up for the Twitter account of the Haaland versus Preston North End squad, which is absolute quality. So I highly recommend you search that out. Which we were chatting beforehand, and it's got all the stats and diagrams to show how many Haaland scorers compared to the whole Preston squad put together each game. and it's just a pure piss take. So whoever's doing it, every credit. I have half a feeling somebody on this podcast might have something to do
It's
with
not
it.
me. I wish it was me. It's not. It's absolutely. I'd be claiming that if that were me. That is brilliant.
You've got form there, Joe, for these little accounts.
Honestly, I'm to God, not me. I wish it was. I'd be claiming that one.
Oh, Mix just said to him, is that the same algorithm used for the player ratings 7+? We've unfortunately decided to not do player ratings this season, so unfortunately the FPRS system is no more. But maybe we should put it in a time capsule of some sort. And
we might use it on the live pod. Just for old time's sake.
I was just about to say that, Tim. If everyone looks at the ticker, it's on the screen. Obviously, this won't work on the audio pod. We are doing a live show, our first ever live show, and it's not just in a corner pub. It's at the Winter Gardens in the Pavilion at the Word Fest Festival, which is happening on Saturday, the 8th of October, and we are up against Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell against The Rest is Politics. So as I put on Twitter this morning, it's better than The Rest is Politics.
Are we going to have to wear makeup?
What you do at weekends is your business.
Are we going to have a rider when we get there? And, is it going to be full on celeb style? Like Reid when he went, be like Oliver Reed when he went on Wogan, won't it?
Well, Gary Taylor Fletcher's coming as well. Okay. So Fletcher's going to come. He's going to come to the game with us, Watford game. So we're going to be doing a match reaction to the Watford game with GTF, a Q&A with GTF, a few stories about the boycott years, and then rounding it off with an audience Q&A. So it's going to be a great evening. We've got 90 minutes.
Few bottles of Tim's All Ruin on the side, is there?
Well, Tim will be powered up by 3 bottles of Tim's Old Ruin, the vintage cider, top tipple. So we'll be plying him with that in the Moretti Lounge before the game. Leanne, it is called Wordfest. I think that's what she's asking about. No, she's asking about the
Haaland account.
Haaland account. What's it called, Tim? The Haaland account.
I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I'm sure if you just search Haaland, it'll be and P&E, put P&E in there, it'll come straight up.
Right, okay.
I'll have a look. Give me a minute.
Right, yeah, Joe will post it in the comments. So yeah, come and see us at the Wordfest Festival. Great to have you. It's £12, or if you're a patron, £8. Patrons get a discount, and that'll be in the Patreon app. Yeah, beautifully segued in there, Tim. Right, on to the second half of the game.
Haaland watch.
Haaland watch. Mike's just putting it in the comments. So away you go, Mike. Okay, back to the game. When did we make those subs?
I think it was about 10, 15 minutes into the second half, wasn't it? Or did we react to their subs? Didn't they make a couple of subs first?
Well, the first one was we brought Jimbo on for Williams, and then a bit later on, as time was going down, we brought Hamilton and Lavery on.
Yeah, I think Williams was injured because he looked a bit ginger as he was not ginger-haired, but gingerish as he walked off. But I don't know whether he was doing that for effect because he to be honest, Marv was brilliant with his headers, but his distribution was shocking. Every time he and his attempted at clearances were poor, and I think him and Williams seemed to be at odds a little bit. So I don't know whether it was a tactical sub or whether it was actually that Williams got a bit of a knock, because I said he did look a bit like he was hobbling as he walked off, but he hadn't had a great game.
No, I thought he'd dragged him off because he'd been booked, and then he went in with 2 sliding tackles and missed both of them. Really timed them badly, missed both of them, and on one of them when I watched it back, he was quite lucky. I think it was the move that led to the corner that was the non-goal, I think. But he went in for a really wild tackle, and he was lucky that the lad vaulted him and carried on running, because he could have been in trouble if he'd have, because it would have been late if he'd have made contact. The lad had decided to make a meal of it, and I think he got hooked, because he's already been hooked once, hasn't he, for not playing that well. And Appleton's certainly not above doing that. And I thought just, Husband came on, and as he always does, he must just practice all the time, because he can be out for like months, weeks at a time, and he just comes on and just carries on playing like he's been playing all season. And I thought we were better when Husband came on.
Husband is quality, Mitch. I think we're in the same camp there. Ruffles and Jones on for Kelso and Hogg on 56 minutes. We had a flurry of yellow cards, Tim. Conley on 58, Williams on 63, Yates on 65. It wasn't really a surprise for me to see Williams getting hooked, because, again, he was a bit shaky for me. And
yeah, obviously, when we're at the second half, when you're in the ground, it's obviously he's at the far end, so you don't perhaps pick up on the little bits in the same way as you do when they're defending in the first half. But I thought I've got to say, Marv's heading ability was up there with the best you're going to see on Sunday, I thought, because he seemed to get his head on every single corner that came in. And I was really worried, apart from the one that just nicked by the post in the first half, which I thought was going in. I think most people did. I really felt that he seemed to really dominate that area, but when the ball was on the floor, it was kamikaze stuff. And I think Leanne's right. I think he's unsettled by Keogh's departure, and I think he's got somebody less experienced alongside him when he actually needs somebody who's more experienced. And I think that then gives him the confidence just to play his own game, where at the moment he's having to lead the line, and that added responsibility, plus worrying about Williams, is probably preying on him a bit. And so it's these little things sometimes, isn't it? These little nuances that are the difference between somebody being on top of the game and somebody looking a bit shaky.
Well, I think Williams is indecisive as well, isn't he? I think there was one. I think I said on the pod, my Liverpool mate had said, watch out for when he gets turned by a ball over the top. And there was one yesterday where they'd lift it over the top. He was running back, and he needed to either bring it down and deal with it, or smack it in the stand. And he sort of did neither. He just powder puff headed it up in the air and then flapped a bit underneath it. And it was all, I don't know, indecisive, edgy. He doesn't exude that. I'm trying to think of another word other than decisive to say, because I already said indecisive. But he doesn't exude that certainty that you want a centre back.
Ponderous.
No, I wouldn't even say ponderous, because that's kind of slow, isn't it? But it's an edginess. It's almost like, oh, I better not make a mistake. I bet it's like he doesn't want to put the ball out of play and lose possession, so he won't put it in the stand. But then I suppose it is ponderous, maybe.
Tentative?
That's a better word. Yes, I think it is that.
Thanks. Tentative isn't that great a word, sorry.
Well, this is
coming
why
from Rotherham, it is, Joe.
Yeah,
true.
This is why we're on at Wordfest, isn't it?
Well,
that exchange then.
Yeah.
It's thanks to Tim that we're on at Wordfest.
Yeah.
What I will say is, I think that the next incident certainly left the Huddersfield fans incredulous with rage.
He's on a roll.
2-1.
Shall we talk about the incident?
Yes. Let's.
What a save from Grimmy.
It was
fantastic.
Out of this world, wasn't it? A double save as well.
Yeah. It seemed to bend space, time, and light simultaneously. Unbelievable tackers.
It was a
apparently, because their manager was going mental, wasn't he, about the fact that the watch didn't go off, because there is goal line technology in the Championship, and that is a watch on the referee's hand which buzzes if the whole of the ball crosses the line. Now, apparently, the ref's unsighted. This is what the EFL's statement was saying, wasn't it? The ref was unsighted and his watch didn't go off. Now, apparently, Huddersfield insisted that he went back out afterwards and tried it, and apparently it worked. So you get all these angles, and none of them are on the goal line, are they? They're all front on, zooming in and whatever. And maybe you do get an element of distortion, and just maybe that, and it has to be. Let's remember, it has to be the whole of the ball across the line, not 70% of it, not 80% of it. I'm trying to keep a straight face here. But I've got to say, it looks like it was across the line, but it would be a bit bizarre that the ref's watch didn't go off and then it does go off after the game.
EFL is incredibly frustrated that a technology failure at Huddersfield Town and Blackpool has overshadowed a fantastic weekend of action on the pitch. We have now received an initial assessment from Hawkeye, the providers of the goal line technology service in the Championship, that during a second half incident with Huddersfield attacking, the match officials did not receive a signal to their watch or earpiece, as due to multiple factors, the ball was no longer being tracked follow it entering the Blackpool's goal area. Separately, PGMOL have confirmed officials were unsighted due to obstruction by players and therefore unable to award a goal. System was tested and functional prior to the start of the game. Further information is expected from both Hawkeye, blah, blah, blah. Technology is there to support the decision-making process of match officials in the Championship, and it failing in such a manner on Sunday is a matter of great concern for clarity. The referee's decision is final and the match result stands. So, Yahoo sucks to you, Huddersfield. Tough shit.
Well, listen, there's been loads of incidents, hasn't there, where goals haven't been given. This technology, in my view, is good. If it's failed on the one occasion, then it's karma, because how many times have, you only have to go back to QPR last season where we were denied a clear and unequivocal goal based on
Where was our statement? Where was our apology?
There wasn't one, was there? That was a shit referee's decision. We've seen from VAR this weekend. Virtually every game in the Premier League was tarnished by a crap VAR decision that completely went against the spirit of the game. And I think in this respect, the EFL are right. It is there to aid, and if it fails, it fails. But I would be pissed off if I was a Huddersfield fan. But how many times have we been pissed off as Blackpool fans when decisions
after the QPR game? I think after the QPR game, I'm sure I was on that pod. I think I'd had a massive anti-VAR rant about 2 pods before, and somebody said, "Oh, I bet you wish we had VAR now." And this is exactly why I don't wish we had VAR, because we lost. We lost the goal against QPR, and then look what happens. Somewhere down the line, we get one, and all flipping weekend. I've been driving loads, so I've had the radio on, I've had 606 and that on, and all it's been banging on about is fucking VAR decisions and fractional moments of a game. And you know what? We got really lucky there. We'll take it. We'll run off. They'll rage about it, and then football will start again on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the next game is. And that's the way it is. You get pissed on sometimes, and sometimes you piss on them, and that is football. And I would far rather have our division with all its ugliness and all its warts and all its mistakes and this self-important pile of crap that they have in the Premier League, where it takes 5 minutes to decide whether somebody's a shoelace inside or not. So there we go.
I agree. What happened to daylight for offsides? What were wrong with that?
Exactly.
It's daylight between the defender and the attacker.
Even that EFL statement there, it's just so bloody, I don't know what the word is, so bloody full of its
hoity-toity.
Yeah.
Corporate bollocks.
The censor didn't
I like
work.
the bit at the end. Sorry for interrupting. I like the bit at the end where they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we won't be replaying the game." Like Huddersfield are asking for it to be replayed. Can we replay 1986 game against Argentina for that handball. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, what? Yeah, or the Frank Lampard one against Germany. What
I
about
think
that
the
one
only
as well?
time I've known a game be replayed was that FA Cup game between Arsenal and Sheffield United.
Well,
When we
rightfully, we need to go back to 1939 when we were top of the league and the war started, and then everything's, rightfully, we should reset football from that position where
We should have got. All the teams should have got medals that year, shouldn't they?
if we do that, but.
So
I think the overreaction to it online and in the media has been unbelievable. I can't believe that. All right, yeah, it was a poor decision, but the fact that it's still get fans genuinely saying if Blackpool had any integrity, they'd kick the ball in their own net from kickoff.
this one.
Yeah.
This was a Twitter reaction.
To be fair to that guy, if you read on his comments, he is actually pretty self-aware of what he's doing. When he gets pulled up on it, he just says, "Yeah, I'm being."
He's done it. It's out there. It's out there in the ether now. Tim, he's called. Shame on you, Blackpool FC, that your players didn't have the decency to admit the ball was a long way over the line. We all know, of course, that money is far more important than sportsmanship or, God forbid, honesty. But even I can stop the video and get this shot. Utter disgrace. Where do we go with that?
You see that?
I take it he's a Huddersfield fan, is he?
Smallest violin for Huddersfield fans. And Tim. Shit decisions happen. Get over it. We've had about 5 this season already. Well,
it's as Matt said. This is what makes football interesting. These controversies, that this chatter after the game, it's a disgrace.
It's like Medine getting his 3-match ban. I mean, where does that come from? That's like we've already got
game's not on Sky, it don't happen.
Yeah,
simple as.
Yeah,
I'm not even. I mean, I've seen it about 3 times myself. I'm still not completely convinced he actually meant to do it. He probably did, but knowing Gaz.
As if, Tim.
It didn't even look that bad from the replay I saw. I don't
know. Well, the player didn't really seem to react in a particularly. He wasn't rolling over, was he?
Well, let's take Hawkeye out of this equation then. From the referee's point of view, it's pretty difficult to see, isn't it? Because he was obscure.
There was about 14 players in the 6-yard box alone.
Yeah. But we nearly actually went down the other end and scored from.
We did.
Didn't we? Imagine the shitstorm if we had.
It was the weirdest moment because I'd reacted that they'd scored, and then my head came out of my hands or whatever it'd done, and then Grimmy was belting it up the pitch, and Pervader was hurtling towards the goal with their last man, and it was really, really surreal. I was like, why have we kicked off with a goal kick? I genuinely had the thought of, why have we kicked off with a goal kick? Is this what's happening? And yeah.
It was great. It was great afterwards as well, because every time Huddersfield went anywhere near their goal, near our goal, all our fans started going, "Whoa, yeah!" They'd scored for the rest of the game, just to rub salt into the proverbial wounds.
I liked it how we kept turning around to one side and going, "Whoa, hey!" and then turning around to the other side and going, "Whoa, hey!" Brilliant.
I'm just glad that Blackpool players themselves haven't exacerbated the situation by doing dodgy tweets online, because that would be really poor form.
Grimmy and Dom Thompson, we're looking at you.
Every credit, lads.
Absolutely.
Clean sheet, Grimmy.
Shithousing bastards.
A clean sheet's a clean sheet, isn't it? Yeah, but
exactly.
Remember last year at Huddersfield when one of their players got Gabriel sent off? All right, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Right, but he didn't even touch the Huddersfield player barely. And he made an absolute meal of it, rolling around. As soon as he saw Gabriel being given a red card, he was up straight away and back on with the game. So, sorry, Huddersfield. What goes around comes around.
Didn't one of their players break Carey's metatarsal in that game as well? was
Yeah.
putting out the season. So there we go. Yeah, we were owed it.
I have to say, Huddersfield, after that 3-2 victory, you were all laughing at us. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
Have you got them tweets from the two players in
I've not
question?
screenshotted them, Joe. So we'll have to continue talking about the game. Blackpool changed, obviously, 67 minutes. James Husband on for Reece James. We've talked about that. 69 minutes. Jezza nipped in, stole the ball away from, was it their goalie? And Paveda got his shot away, Tim, but it was deflected and went wide. Should have scored, really. Remember?
Yeah,
right in front of the Pool fans.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think he was tiring by this stage, Paveda. To be honest, I think he was out on his out. You know, he was all done in, and perhaps that slightly reflected in the lack of precision in the shot. But he'd given it all, to be fair to him, and it was a warm day for them all. And if you're coming in from not having many games on your back, it must be, you're going to be goosed, aren't you, after 65 and 70 minutes. So I wasn't too surprised when he was then one of the ones to make way.
For the one and only CJ Hamilton.
Well, I mean, I was hoping to see Wright make his debut, and I was a bit disappointed. Listen, I don't want to bash CJ, but he within about 2 minutes of being on the pitch, he'd executed one of the worst defensive back passes I think I've seen in 45 years of watching football. And it sort of just reinforced in my mind as to why the hell he shouldn't have been on the pitch. It was like...
Imagine if they'd scored off that corner.
It was... Listen, if you haven't watched the game back, it must be about 70, 75 minutes. Watch it. It is...
It was a shock.
It was like, you're looking there, what the hell was he doing then?
Well, it came just after. I just had a chat with Tim and the lad you were with about the delights of CJ Hamilton and his many footballing skills and how happy we all were to see him coming on. And I felt a bit guilty. So when he picked up the ball, I gave it a big, go on, CJ. And then he immediately executed that atrocious back pass and proceeded to give... a masterclass in the way that only CJ can sometimes for the rest of the game.
Kept it interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
5 minutes of injury time, Joe. Were you worried? I think the only way they were going to. I think the only way they were going to score was from a set piece.
No, I think, to be honest, the way we managed the game towards the end was really good. Taking our time with throw-ins, starting to get good at the old dark arts, as many teams have done to us in the past. When it's a throw-in, magically not getting the ball or seeing where it is or taking your time with them.
That's why Jerry got booked, wasn't it? Because he threw the ball, it ended up in the stand, didn't it? He threw the ball back.
And taking time with goal kicks. In play, I thought we held it up pretty well in the corners. And they had a lot of the ball like in their half in that last 2 or 3 minutes of injury time, but they never really looked like doing it. They overhit the passes or they'd try and work a little intricate thing and it'd break down with the final ball. To be honest, I think when that board went up, they were kind of beaten. They'd kind of like half given up. They didn't really have that. You always have a team that has one last effort in injury time. Bit like we did against Blackburn on Wednesday. But they didn't really, from my point of view anyway, I weren't worried. It's pretty comfortable.
I felt the same, to be fair. And also, they also kicked the ball into touch, I think, twice in the 5 minutes injury time, didn't they? Just to give possession away and give us that breathing space that we needed. I mean, literally shocking passes that lit to nobody that just went straight out for throw-ins to us, and just again it just allowed us to take the pressure out of the game, and actually I felt the 5 minutes seemed to go down quite quickly for me for a change. Yeah. Normally it drags on forever and ever, doesn't it?
Mitch, your closing thoughts on the game? Were you worried at all?
Well, I mean, you're always worried, aren't you, with 5 minutes to go with 1-0 up? But I think Joe said it perfectly. I've read a few comments on Twitter saying, well, we were under a lot of pressure for the last 20 minutes. We weren't really under meaningful pressure. I mean, Joe said it all. I can't really remember, that looking through my fingers or biting my nails particularly. Yeah, it was well managed, and it was really nice to see. It was a horrible, ugly game. It was really nice to see after we got in the Blackburn game, which was a horrible, ugly game, and an ugly team did a real number on us. It was nice to see that we could reduce a game to that level and come out on top, if that made sense. Yeah. And I think credit has to go to Appleton for sort of tweaking things after that Blackburn game and coming out with a different way of playing that reductive kind of football.
Yeah, Tim, I think this shows Appleton's quality, doesn't it? In the fact that he can mix up a system and apply different tactics, different opposition. I don't think that's something Neil Critchley had in his locker particularly.
No, I think he's a tactician, isn't he? He's got a lot of games under his belt. He knows what he wants to do. I think we've spoken about it on the pods before. I think the fact that we've now got 5 subs gives you greater choices to actually affect a game by making early substitutions, by bringing on double substitutions, where when you had the 3, you always had to think, do I hold one back in case of injury? So when you do throw 3 players on, when you've only got 3 subs, it's a real risk, where now you can make those changes and know that you've still got a safety card, so to speak, in relation that you can play if need be. So I'm more than pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think Critchley was very risk averse, where I think Appleton is a risk taker, and in football you need to be a risk taker.
So we've got his the manager's reaction, which was published on Twitter, the Radio Likes feed. So let's have a quick listen, because I think it's refreshing to have such an honest appraisal of a game from an honest manager. Let's have a quick listen to it.
Obviously, we were a bit disappointed with Wednesday in terms of the manner we conceded the goal to allow them to get ahead in the game, and then the way the game sort of went in the second half. It disappointed us because we looked disjointed, and that's not us as a group. So to respond the way they did, especially in that first half today, thought we controlled the game without the ball at times. Thought that was the best way to put it, and that's a good sign. It is a good sign to have, and we picked our moments to attack. Little change of sort of formation, which I think helped us today, and we got the rewards.
Should you have gone ahead before you did?
I think we should have. I think Jerry and a couple of players are aware that, sometimes when you get those massive chances, they don't come around again. And luckily we had a lot of patience with it. Didn't get too disappointed. And in the end, it was a real calmness to the finish. Obviously, it was a good pass from Jordan. It was actually a decent finish from Jan. And obviously, Theo had the composure to finish off.
He's making a bit of a habit of it, isn't he?
Well, he knows where the goal is. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He knows where the goal is. And he'll get goals, he'll get assists. I think with Theo, we're just trying to sort of manage him and get him to have a better understanding of out of possession, what we want from him. And he's learning all the time. He wants to learn. He wants to be better at that, because that's where people will question him, not his ability. So if we can develop him from that point of view, and he can add to it with scoring and getting us assists, we might have a player on our hands.
You knew that coming away from home to Huddersfield, they're one behind a hat and they're going to have a right go. Yeah. But other than set plays, they didn't seem to hurt you.
No, we knew that we're going to have to deal with crosses. We knew that. I thought they made the switch in the second half. The young kid come on and gives a few things to think about. But there was no sort of like clear-cut incidents at all. It was, like you say, dealing with set plays, dealing with crosses coming into the box. And it comes down to concentration. When you're knackered, going into that last 10 minutes, going into the injury time, you've got to keep your concentration levels high. And I thought the players, for the majority of it, did do.
Nice to see James Husband back in the action, and he brought a calmness near the end, didn't he?
He did. Obi, we know what he's got. We know what he's capable of. He can give us versatility. He can deal with the ball. But he's got that aggression as well. You've seen him snapping into a couple of tackles there on the transition, and yeah, it was good to see him back involved.
Took another wonder save or double save from your keeper to keep it at 1-0.
Yeah, I had a bit of joke with him in dressing room at the end, thinking he made a bit of a meal with the first one, but just so he could make a second save. But no, it was listen, that's what Grimmy's there for. The reality is, and and I think when you come away from home, and if that's what we can sort of restrict them to, that one moment really. I know they had a couple of things in the first half that come to nothing, but if we can restrict them to that, then obviously we know we've had a decent day.
Every credit to Jon Poveda. He got 75 minutes out of him, and they were quality minutes.
Yeah, he was very good today, Jan, and he's not had much football as well, so we were a little bit worried about that. We were thinking, would he be better as an impact? But because we changed the shape a little bit, we thought that would help him, and yeah, it seemed to work. And the big moments in the game today, a lot of the big moments and positive moments probably come, when Jan was involved.
And how long did it take you finally to decide you were going to go with the 3 at the back?
So the honest question, or the really professional, sophisticated coach answer? No, I slept on it Friday night, if I'm being honest. Came in Saturday and basically burst into the door and said, we're going with a 3, and everyone was like looking at me like as if I was mad. I explained my reasoning why, and then very, very quickly it was like, all right, okay, I like the idea of that. So yeah, did a little bit of work with the players on the grass yesterday, showing them obviously a bit of stuff regarding Huddersfield, and
I love that interview, particularly the end. Love it.
I like 99% of it. Don't like it when he's on the grass.
Does that remind you of Critchley?
Just get that talk out your fucking head right now. Next thing you're wearing a bloody.
He did. He had a body warmer on against.
Oh,
He did, and look what happened. So he's learned. No body warmer today. We win easy.
But it's an unbelievable change in attitude, I think, as regards Blackpool fans, in that I think he was universally viewed as an underwhelming manager when he was first signed, and I think we only look at the comments in the chat now, and everybody seems to be of the same mind that they're preferring him and his style of play and his decision making to what we had under Critchley. So out of what we thought was a catastrophic situation that came about in June, we may actually have ended up, still early days, may have ended up with a better manager than we actually had last season.
And he has got a sense of humour. I've seen a facet of his personality that I didn't know existed at the end of that interview.
He always looked really miserable every time I've seen him.
Yeah.
But he certainly did. He certainly did last time around, didn't he? I mean, and I think it didn't help that he'd come after Holloway. It was so colourful and so, larger than life. And then he just seemed like a really, really boring man who came. He seemed last time round. I can barely remember it. He was there for so little time, but he seemed all very Critchley-esque. He just seemed to be a very boring man that talked in coach speak. But I mean, there's so much water under the bridge, and he really has got a personality. And you can tell that he really seems to like the players that he's working with. The way he talks about the players, but he talks about them very honestly. And he seems to pay the fans the respect of, rather than doing stupid heart-shaped gestures and rip off Jurgen Klopp crap, what he actually seems to do is tell fans things that are going on. And sort of like the little thing he said about, what was the player he said about, Theo, about what he said about Theo was spot on about, like, yeah, he's a really good finisher, but we're working with him off the ball and we're really trying to improve that bit of his game. And that's what I want to see from him. And he actually speaks to you in an interview instead of just churning out football, generic football. Critchley was always like, if you've played Football Manager, where it gives you a choice of things to say in an interview, do you say A, B, or C? You always felt like that was what Critchley spoke like. In 99% of the interviews, apart from that time he had a right paddy after West Brom. And that was my favourite Critchley interview, because you actually saw a bit of his genuine feelings and a bit of passion under him. And yeah, I mean, the question, somebody said, would you swap Appleton for Critchley? No, I wouldn't swap Appleton for 3 Critchleys right now. I'm really happy with him.
Yeah. What I'll say is we've got off to a relatively decent start. I think, is it 11 points from 8 games? Currently 11th in the table. Table don't really mean out at this stage of the season, but I think what you got to bear in mind is all of that's been done with a ridiculously long injury list. This team can only get better when the players that we've got currently missing through injury and suspension come back. I mean, you're going to have Carey back for the next game against Middlesbrough. Patino should be back for the game against Rotherham.
Medine should far off.
Medine should be back for Millwall. The squad's slowly coming back together, and that could only be a positive thing, because we've done this well with a very limited squad. Once we get everybody back together, I'm not predicting anything stupid. I'm not saying we're going to get in the playoffs or anything, but any talks of us finishing in the bottom 3 are absolute nonsense. We'll be absolutely fine this season.
The other thing I've noticed when I looked at the league table, forgive me if I'm not 100% right on this, but I think most of the teams we've played are above or in or around us in the league. We haven't played many of those in and around the bottom. I know it's early days yet, but I look around. The games we've played. I know Reading are a bit of a surprise package, but we've played Reading, we've played Blackburn, we've played. Obviously, I think Huddersfield's probably the lowest placed team we've played so far. But it's quite encouraging that the teams we're playing are the ones who are picking up points as well. So that suggests, it stands us in good stead, hopefully for the rest of the season. Because I agree with Joe, the table means very little at the moment. But over the next 5 to 10 games, it should start to settle down, and hopefully we're not near the bottom. And if we're not near the bottom, which I don't think we will be, I think we'll, you can take great encouragement from that game, because that's a game I think we'd have lost last season. I think
it's one we certainly wouldn't have won.
Went out to Twitter, got a couple of fans' reactions, so let's briefly go through those. Reaction 1 from Rob Walker. Brilliant, Rob, because I wanted to talk about Jordan Thornley. Surely the most unassuming footballer out there. Just comes in and out of the wilderness quietly and gets on with the job with minimal fuss. Superb stuff. Slightly worried about Williams' form. Looked at miles off it again, and then it's an accident waiting to happen. I mean, I've been banging the drum for Jordan Thornley on here. Sean shot that all down.
What does he know?
What does he know? What does he know? He's just brilliant, Jordan Thornley. He's
Judd's
never,
gotta play.
ever lets you down.
Judd's got to play. He has to. He has not made a mistake in a Blackpool shirt since the Blackburn game. And actually, aside from the mistake in the Blackburn game, he played well in the Blackburn game, aside from the mistake that led to their goal. He's good with his feet. His work is, his long passing's good, and his short passing, he's calm defensively. He's really committed. He's everything that I said. What did we decide that Williams was? Tentative. He's not tentative at all. He is decisive. I cannot for the life of me see why our Judd, as it turns out he's called, who knew, isn't going to be starting the next game. I think he should be. I think he deserves it absolutely 100%.
It's showing the pedigree now that, when he joined us from Chef Wednesday, they were saying you've got a great player there, and
we were like, "What are you on about?" After seeing him,
he seemed to be. He's quite introvert. He always comes across to me as quite introvert though, and I wonder whether that probably hasn't helped him. If he was slightly more extrovert and maybe I don't get an impression he's one who goes bashing on the manager's door saying, why the F am I not involved? He probably just accepts the decision and gets on with it. But sometimes, you've got to he's let his football do his talking for him this season. And I think it's going to be very difficult to drop. The issue that the conundrum Appleton's going to have is, he's got husband chomping at the bit as well, hasn't he? But you've got Thompson there, who is rapidly becoming my favourite player. Was it with you, Mitch, or was it with? I think it was with somebody. It was either. He'd lost his man at Thompson. I think it was in the first half, and somebody was moaning. I said, "Don't worry, it'll be back. It'll be goal side of him in about 2 seconds." And he was, because he almost takes it like a personal affront if somebody beats him. And he's one of the quickest players I think you can see over 5 yards, and his recovery runs are up there with the best. They really are. The way he gets himself back where he should be into position and goal side, and he's got a bit of personality about him as well. And I think with him and Gabriel on the other side, we're in for some good football. But I'd like to see Hubby in there, but I don't know how he fits in.
No, I'm with you. I mean, look, I love Jimmy Husband. I dedicate the part of my time that isn't dedicated to clearing up misconceptions about Gary Medina on the internet. Whatever's left over, I clear up misconceptions about Jimmy Husband on the internet. But I picked Thompson ahead of him at the moment. Do you remember that spin he did on the? I think it was first half, when he was in a really, really tight corner, and he just sort of flicked it behind him and span round the guy. And it was absolutely outstanding. And I think him and Gabriel really do complement each other really well, don't they? We've got that two aggressive, characterful fullbacks on either side, which is it's really nicely balanced.
Look at this comment from Paul Gardner. Williams is Blackpool's Harry Maguire. He makes other players nervous around him. He wants to come in on that.
It's not, to me, the point isn't that I think Williams is terrible. The point is that I think Thornley is really good, and I think we're doing Thornley a disservice by making it all about Williams not being good enough. Because I think Thornley is a really, really good footballer who deserves the right to play championship football for us, because he's never let us down. He's been treated like crap by Blackpool. Yep. He's been farmed out. He's been, Critchley's first season, he virtually locked him in a shed somewhere in the youth team pitches and wouldn't let him out. And then when it came to it, in he came, and he was superb, and sort of all the way through to Wembley. He was part of the team, and then he farms him out to Oxford, and then, oh no, we've got an injury crisis. He brings him back, and he's superb in the championship, bar the odd mistake, which a central defender will sooner or later make a mistake in a game. There will, and then he's new manager, and he's kind of third choice. Every time he's come in his side, he's been excellent. I think he deserves to play, and I think Williams is a 20-year-old, 21-year-old kid who's learning the game, and he needs to sit on the bench, because Thornley is in the prime of his career and he deserves to play football. That's the way I would look at it, as opposed to digging out Williams. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what Paul says, to be honest.
And he's our player. He's our player, not alone as well.
He's our player, and it's all very well developing Williams. We've got Thornley, who's 26, 27, coming into the absolute prime of his career. We paid a decent, by the standards of where we were in League One at the time, we paid a decent fee for him. Let's enjoy the lad. Let's give him, the chance to really, to really go on and do what he can do. That's what I think.
I think, Michael Appleton, if you're listening, you've received a lot of plaudits this evening. You may not get so many if you play Williams in place of our Jordan Thornley against Middlesbrough. Jord. That's what they call him, Jord. Do they?
Yeah, Judd.
What was he calling Ian Pervader?
Jan.
Is it spelled Ian? I-A-N?
But some people are called Ian call themselves Jan. Like,
are they really? Honestly?
Yeah. I used to work with Jan.
Is that a thing?
We used to work with a guy called Ian. He used to say, "Call me Yam," or what was even worse, he used to say, "Call me Yammy," which was awful. Yammy.
Does that mean Jan Molby was Ian
Cool.
Molby?
Ian Molby.
Do you go into work? Do you go into work, Matt, and say to people, "Call me Mitch"? It's not Matt.
No,
it's Mitch.
I do not.
Anyway, you
Right.
haven't spoken about our media horum at the end on the Blackpool. You were on at Burnley.
It was me at Burnley. It was me at Burnley, and you've grabbed the baton for the Seasiders podcast, Tim, and run with it at Huddersfield.
Well, and in the opening shot, Matt's there as well, right? Stood right next to me. Perhaps but then somebody gets their arms in the way, and he's that's it. He's confined to history from that point onwards. But yeah, we were there, very prominent in the BFC official celebration video. So,
And what's more, not only were we filmed in the celebration video, but when we came out the ground, who do you think we bumped into?
who did we bump into?
Jan Molby.
No, I don't think Tim did. I think you headed off towards the coaches, but I tried to mooch around the other bit of the car park because I wasn't on the coach. Who would be the one person to top off an away victory for me to bump into?
Gary
Gaz.
Medina.
Big Gaz.
It was Big Gaz was there.
Did you say?
Did you
I'm your
introduce
biggest
yourself?
fan. I'm your biggest fan.
I
Did
didn't.
you
I
invite him round?
tried to convince the lad to go and get a selfie with him because I thought it'd be too weird to go and ask for a selfie.
Yeah,
with
but
him
you could have
with a 42.
got your son to go and get a selfie with him, but then sort of shimmied and sneaked onto it as well, and then whispered.
Photo bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my son went, "Dad, I'm not doing that." And then he went, "What would you do if Gary Medina asked you to go for a pint now? Would you go for a pint?" And I was like,
What did you say? The bear shit in the woods. Is the Pope Catholic?
See that after I've laid it out, I've sort of sown the seed. You could have gone up to me, had your opening line. Tim introduced me remotely.
Yeah,
I love
could
the
have done,
video,
couldn't I? Could have
love the VT. That was your in.
Leanne said there. Did you tell him that you loved him?
I was lost for words, Leanne. It was. I froze.
We've got to make this happen this season, haven't we? We've got to make this happen.
Could have photoshopped it. What sort of a sado photoshops themselves on an image with Blackpool players?
Who's done that? The way you were talking, John, I think you were trying to suggest something there.
News. Neil Erdley returns to Bloomfield Road in the player of professional development phase coach. Sounds
Can
very
he still
posh.
play right back?
Don't need one anymore, Joe. Just going back to that, Mitch. Leanne's going to sort it because Paul knows him.
I'm literally terrified.
This is going to be brilliant. Right. We're doing the Seasides podcast live show at the Winter Gardens. And maybe we should do a live show in the Armfield as a kind of a practice, a warm-up, if you will. And we'll see if we can get Big Gaz on.
Do it live from the Moretti Lounge.
Who's going to stop? Who's going to stop Matt shaking?
The Stella Lounge.
Anyway, Erders is back in a coaching role. We've not talked about Josh Bowler, have we?
Who?
Remiss of us not to talk about him. Mitch, he didn't listen to your letter.
Well, it's just ridiculous.
Ignored it.
It was a ridiculous concept that some kind of jumped up fan would be able to persuade him to stay, wasn't it? I mean, let's be honest.
These internet fans scaring him off.
Oh, I know. Pestering him.
Anyway, I'm arranging a special trip to Athens for taking a Panathinaikos game and do a little bit of sightseeing around some ruins. So if anybody wants to come,
Sorry,
it'll be a good weekend. That.
In
Well,
fact,
I'll
no,
say
Tim,
it's good luck to him, but Got Pervader now, done it, but don't matter. Josh, the king
Tony's
is
just
dead
said
long
that.
live the king.
Pervader.
That's a quality chant. That we
As you know, we are joking about Josh Bowler, but the really nice message he sent on Instagram on
Yeah,
his
that
way
was
out,
class.
that's the mark of the man there. I thought it was fantastic for him to do that and compare and contrast that message. He said, I can't thank Blackpool and the fans enough for getting my career back on track. So you give me the confidence to play. And it was a really heartfelt message, I thought. So, you know, joking aside, absolutely good luck to Josh Bowler. He's provided us with many moments of absolute magic on the pitch. And I think we all really wish him well in his career. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on.
Yeah.
Just compare and contrast that message to the non-message that Neil Critchley left us
Don't
with.
even bother talking about him. At the end of the day, he was here for a year, did some brilliant stuff, scored some great goals, helped kept us up, and made the club 4 to 6 million, if you believe whatever the figures are.
It
Good luck to the
reminds me.
lad.
It reminds me of when. It reminds me a bit of when Brett went, and sort of. I remember going and watch the cup final in the pub. You know, when Southampton got to cup final, and you kind of just, you know, you just followed Brett, or even Sinclair when I was a kid. You know, when he went and he went through, because you just can't begrudge him the move. I wish he'd got a better move in a way. I wish he wasn't going. I wish he'd gone to somewhere that maybe would appreciate him a bit more and didn't load him out and all of that. But he's playing Europa League football this year, so you can't begrudge him that. And he is good enough. If he backs himself, he is good enough to do it on that stage. So good luck to the lad.
Transfer business since the last pod. We've obviously lost Josh. We've got Ian Pervader coming in. Callum Wright, Tim, one of Leicester City's hot prospects, and it sounds like a real coup that we've got him. Shame we didn't see him, really, isn't it, for a cameo role?
Yeah, well, that's what I was looking forward to. I wondered whether Appleton would actually. Seems to have got spammed, haven't we?
Here we go.
Dating
69mega.com. New AI dating for all mate. Right, what's that address again?
Anyway, back to more serious stuff. So right, I think two massive positives I've took out of what I've seen online so far is, firstly, how much Leicester fans seem to be in shock and are unhappy about the fact that they've let him go, which isn't what you normally see, is it? When Premier League players get released to Championship clubs, they really seem to rate him as a player. And secondly, I think the Cheltenham fans as well basically said that he's the best player. I know Cheltenham are obviously a bit further down the pyramid than us, but they reckon he's the best player they've ever had playing for them. And, you know, hopefully, and it's great that he's signed. It's not a loan. So let's hope if he can make the same impression that Kieran Dewsbury-Hall did, but as a Blackpool player rather than a loan player. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know what we've paid for him, but I got the impression it was about £750,000. I think was what was quoted. Which it's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah, oh God, I didn't know that. Is it really that much?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I think it was indicated that it was in. You know, the fee was in. I think Joe was nodding then, so I think I'd seen it right. But just the Leicester fans are absolutely gobsmacked. But there seems to be some issues where they need to maybe a little bit like maybe Rangers, where Rangers need to get players off the books. There seems to be some major issues where they just having, maybe the owners aren't put the money in the way that they were doing, and they've got, if they want to bring players in, they've got to be seen to release ones who perhaps they don't think are quite going to hit the mark for them in the short term. So hopefully their loss will be our gain.
Zach Emerson as well, Joe, one for the future perhaps.
I'm not going to sit here and say I know anything about him because I don't. But from what I've heard, he's played England youth level at a few ages. He's supposed to be quite handy. So, yeah, see where it goes. We're going to have a very good development team. We're going to have a very good team in about 2 or 3 years, it seems.
Well, it's interesting, this strategy, because we bought the boy from Celtic as well, haven't we? We did get
Moffat.
him over the line. Yeah. And it's an interesting strategy because you assume with the age groups that you're gonna go for, bringing in kids who are going to go through the age groups and so on. But we know with the elite player program crap that basically sort of 15, 16-year-olds are any good, Premier League club can just come and take them for that fixed figure of compensation. So
we lost him.
I think it's an interesting strategy to be looking at the 17. No, have you got me back?
Yeah.
Now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
No, we've lost you. Put another 50p in the meter.
I don't know.
Right.
Mute
Tim.
him.
Right, Tim, over to you. Let's see how he's gone now. He's gone all black.
Yeah.
Danny Drinkwater is a rumour that's flying around at the moment. What a brilliant signing he'll be. When I heard the name bandied around, I was like, no, God, is he a bit past it? He's only 32. And in this day and age, it's nothing really.
He played at Reading last year, didn't he? I think he played 30 games for
Played
Reading.
a lot of games, yeah.
And I wouldn't say that they were eulogising about it, but they did say he was worth, because I think he was with them pre-season, if I understand it correctly. But they've decided ultimately not to sign him, or he doesn't want to join them. So
they've got financial troubles though, Tim, as well. So that may have come into the equation.
The only thing you've got to remember that he was he worked under Appleton at Leicester, and I think they were together at Manchester United as well. So
what did he go for? 30 odd million.
35 million.
Wow. I've got to say, I think it could be what we're looking for. The sort of, albeit from a midfield perspective, but like the old head, the Kyo of the team, and
with all those youngsters as well, Tim. Yeah, he could be a perfect player to have him with him.
I
glue it all together.
I would have thought so. So I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but we most certainly seem to be in from him. The only thing I'm not too sure about is where he fits in with our wage structure, because I know obviously with the likes of Brannigan, we wouldn't sign them because of the impact on the wage structure, but I can't imagine that Drinkwater's going to come for our usual maximum wage, I wouldn't have thought, but perhaps he will. I don't know. Maybe I'm overselling
Maybe he doesn't
what
need
he's
that
worth.
Much money if he's trying to get his career going after.
He's probably made his millions, hasn't it, Chelsea?
A good wedge at Chelsea, maybe similar to the whole signing Keogh thing, where he was pretty sorted after his incidents at Derby.
Tony, you've put it perfectly. If Ince didn't rate Drinkwater enough to keep him, that's a good sign. Yeah, if Ince doesn't rate him, let's get him.
He also thought his son was good enough for Inter Milan, so potato, innit?
Yeah, but it's because it could put Dougal's place at risk. Yeah. That's the thing.
Get him signed then.
Well, I as I said in the green room, I thought Dougal had a decent enough game, but what I did see was a load of people slagging him off on Twitter and AVFTT, and I'm thinking, you have no idea. These people haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue about what they're seeing on the pitch if they think he had a shit game yesterday.
I think it's all right to be critical of players when they have a bad game, but I think a lot of fans, and it's not just our fans that are guilty, it's all football fans. Player has a bad game, who's absolutely shit today, and then next game they'll do an assist or bag a goal. Oh, absolute class, quality player. I think it's just the fickle nature of football fans, to be honest.
Yeah. Right, finally, just before we go, Matty Virtue has departed to Lincoln on a season-long loan. I think my abiding thoughts on this are it's kind of a shame that it's not worked out for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I'll remember about Virtue, if this is the last time we see him in a tangerine shirt, was scored a lot of bloody good goals. Accrington Stanley
The
away.
Accrington one. Yeah, that
Sunderland away, scored an absolute screamer. During the pandemic, really good goal away at Charlton. He very much contributed in getting us out of League One, I thought. Very unlucky with injuries as well. Didn't he miss like most of the first Championship season with a bad injury? And
cruciate ligament knee.
He's been very unlucky with injuries. He needs to play football. I hope it really works out for him. Who knows? He still might have a future at the club, but the guy needs to get out and
I'm not being
football.
disrespectful here because it's still a very good standard. I think League One, he's good, and I think he's struggled a little bit to step up. Because there's just that extra little bit of quality you need. But he knows where the goal is, and he comes across as a right nice lad. And I hope he has a great time in Lincoln and does the business for them. And
absolutely,
and you know, if he does come back and with that little bit extra, then maybe he could still have an impact at Blackpool.
Yeah, absolutely endorse everything Joe and Tim have said there. Right, we're on 90 minutes. I think we're going to call it a day there. So, as we said earlier, we are appearing at Wordfest on October the 8th. So do come and see us. Go on the Winter Gardens website. You can get tickets to see us on there. We are joined by Gary Taylor-Fletcher. It's going to be after the Watford game. So go to the Watford game. Have a good time watching us beat Watford and then head off to Winter Gardens if you've got absolutely nothing better to do. And all that remains to be said is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, thanks for commenting, and up the pool, go the pool,
up the pool.
Up the pool.